Hey guys, it's Christina. This is Vox and Guest, and I am so excited because I have with me today Marko of Adder's Fork. Marko, say hi to everybody.
Hi there. Hi.
Look at Marko in his cool little studio with all the hanging guitars and things, and I can't see really clearly because it's tiny, but it looks very cool from here. How you doing today, my friend?
Well, thank you very much at first, and I'm doing well because I'm here. And thank you for the invitation once
No,
again.
very happy that you signed up and we were able to actually get you in and get going because I have wanted to talk to you for a while. So,
Same.
thank you. Before we begin, though, I think you know that you're in for a pretty intense, important question here to open the show. You know, guys, Marko
Yeah,
Marko is a he's a knower of Vox and Guest. He understands. He signed up for this knowing what he was in for.
yeah,
He did.
totally.
And
I
he
did.
came anyway, so I can't go easy on you, Marko, as much as I love you. But
I'm
I'm just
still afraid.
no. I think just we'll get through it together. So if you're ready, here we go. Okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
time machine or teleporter?
Oh my God, that's hard.
It
That's hard.
is right. When I thought of it, I
Yeah.
was like, "Wham! What would I pick?" So, but I don't have to answer it, so it's not my problem. Time machine or teleporter? So to be able to go whenever you want or wherever you want, like instantly.
I would definitely. It's not that hard. I think I would go back in time with the time
Okay.
machine.
Okay. Well, you get the time machine to go wherever you want. You can use it as many times as you want. But if you had it, you would
Yeah.
start with going back.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would go back straight to the dinosaurs because, when I was a kid, like everybody, dinosaurs were a big thing, and I still kind of love them. And that's the first thing. The first thing I would like to see is definitely a T-Rex or something like that.
Okay. Nobody asks you once you're like in high school or after what your favorite dinosaur is anymore. Like they used to ask us that all the time as a kid, right? It was like, what's your favorite dinosaur? Now it's like
Yeah,
nobody cares
totally.
anymore.
No, nobody cares. And thinking about it, what they found out throughout the years is that it had like feathers or something. It's horrible.
That's right. It's like, yeah, because like it's weird enough when you think of it as just some giant like lizard on 2 feet, but then
Yeah.
it has feathers too, and it's like, no,
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 I don't.
no.
Just don't. I don't care. Don't ruin my memories. Just
That's
leave it at that.
Yeah, and they
That's good.
changed all the names. It was a brontosaurus. Now it's an allosaurus, which just sounds like some sort of like guy in Jersey, like, hey, I'm Allosaurus, So I don't know. He'd have to be an Italian Irish guy apparently with that name, but I don't know. We're not going to get down my brain track because God help us, then we'll all be there. But okay, so you would do a time machine and you would start with going back to dinosaurs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I like it. And this way, if we had your time machine, we could just keep going back to when you release new music and then listening to it for the first time all over again, which would make me very happy.
Yeah, totally.
You're
And I
like,
will,
no. I would just go forward to when all my stuff was mixed and mastered and it was done.
that would be a good idea because I hate that stuff.
Yeah, I got
Uh,
that impression. But okay, so you have committed and now we know. So when the choice comes up, you will already be prepared and you can thank me later. So
yes.
okay,
I
see,
will.
you did it. You were fine. You made it through. You did it. You answered. You've passed the first gauntlet. You're already in such good shape now, Marko.
First one.
That's
Let's
it.
see what
One
the next one.
down, like 4,000 to go. But yeah, we're good. So okay. So before we get into Adder's Fork specifically, I want to know, how did you get into music in the first place? How old were you? What was the thing? Because I know your story it's got to be interesting because your music is interesting. So
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, I got my first guitar in 2003.
Okay.
It's
So
been
you were
20
what, like
years.
16ish?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Okay.
15, 16.
Okay.
I had absolutely no idea about anything. So I went to the earliest, I think it was the earliest version of eBay here in Austria.
Okay.
Bought a guitar for as much as I could afford, which wasn't all that much.
Right.
Back in the day, I was totally into Korn and all that stuff, and new metal was all my
Okay.
my force. And I bought a Stratocaster from China.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And
was like,
even more,
oh.
maybe not the right thing, but I had no idea about tunings or
Right.
how.
At that point, you're like, it's a guitar. How bad could it be? And I've heard
Yeah,
that name
electric
Stratocaster
guitar.
before. Yeah, Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I heard that. So it had a sunburst color,
okay.
and the worst thing was it had an amp attached to it that had one channel. It was like an overdrive amp, and I thought overdrive is cool. You can just turn it up, and it's all good. So the heaviest thing it could do was probably dire straits.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And you're
then
coming at it
I
from a
tuned it.
corn angle. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Not quite
And
what
then
we needed.
I had no other idea about tunings either. So
Right. Yeah. Why would you?
yeah. So because I literally just had one or two lessons printed out at home.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
And yeah, so I tried to play corn. So it was like the intro. I remember it was the intro of Blind, if you know that one. It's like dee, 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 dee. Yeah.
And you were not, it was
I could
somehow
do
not
that.
exactly. Yeah. And then after that, it all went downhill. I imagine.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this sucks. Why does it sound so bad? I had no idea. I tried and different variations of wrong chords.
But
And
at least there was overdrive. So, you were rolling hard there at that point. You were in
overdrive and
full
tons
dire
of
straits
feedback.
mode. That was oh my God.
Yeah, that was
But I'm
horrible.
glad that you didn't look at it and go, I can't do this. You kept trying. So like what made you buy the guitar in the first place? Was it just a whim? Had you seen people play and you were curious? Were you just, trying to pick up chicks or like what?
No, it was. I'm sure we'll get back to that later on. It was a turning point in my life that time because
Okay.
everything got better,
Okay.
and I realized that I wanted to do a lot with more life than I did before.
Okay.
And playing in a band was like, yeah, that would be awesome. And my best friend back in the day started playing bass.
Okay.
And so we were already talking about, let's have a band, let's do something.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how, but I've always loved music
Okay.
and got even more into it back in the day. I was back in 2003. So I just took all the money I had and bought a shitty guitar.
Sent it to China. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even
Got what you
remember the
got.
brand. I don't even
It was
remember
like
the
a
brand.
Ferner Sturder or something like that.
Yeah.
It was close enough, but
Close
okay.
enough.
So you, it's funny because you actually got lucky because you could have ended up being a bass player because usually that's how it works, right? Like I say to people, so how'd you get into bass? And they were like, well, originally I wanted to play guitar,
Yeah,
but everybody
that.
already played a guitar. So we needed a bass player. So here I am. But you had a guy who started with the bass and
Yeah.
essentially chose guitar for you. So it worked out kind of well for you in the end, although it's not
Yeah.
like you don't play everything anyway now. But so, okay. So once you started around 15, 16, did you, after you got over the initial shock of like, this doesn't sound like that and how do I make that do? Like, what was the process there? Did you get into lessons? Did you look at stuff online? Did you just like through playing in the band, you kind of figured it out or some combination or?
Well, first thing is I sold that shit again.
Good call. Yeah.
Then I guess there was another break of a few months after that.
Okay.
But then I got a cheap Dean guitar.
Okay.
That one of those Pantera tribute things. I didn't even know about Pantera back then.
Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't pick that up at first, but yeah, I think I know what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, like this weird shape and stuff. And that one was able to. It had decent output, and I got a cheap PV amp. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're upgraded a little bit from whatever the hell it was that they sent like a gift with purchase.
Yeah. Right.
On that first amp. Okay. So that must have been a little more encouraging then.
Yes, it was. And at first I was blown away by bam, bam. Wow, this sounds brutal. Even if it was just able to hit a single note.
Exactly. But it did it well.
It did it well. And that was also the time where people introduced me to classic metal,
like
fresh,
extreme kind
more
of.
extreme stuff. It
Yeah.
took a while, It wasn't like, oh, I can listen to Cannibal Corpse now. Yeah,
Right.
it wasn't.
You do kind of have to ramp up, I think. Like that's sort of what's happened
Yeah.
with me, where I'm like, I listen to stuff now that I listened to when I was first getting back into, or really into metal at all, like in March or April or whatever. And I thought it was so heavy. And now I'm like, oh yeah, this is like pop, related to like the other. And I mean, it's still great. I'm not dinging any, but so I know what you mean, where it's like you have to kind of, desensitize yourself to the immediate, like, I mean, I'm sure some people jump right in, but okay. So you liked Korn already, then you kind of moved into, maybe ramped up a little, and then all of a sudden, besides Cannibal Corpse, what was it? Like, what were you jamming?
Well, the gateways were In Flames.
I don't know that band.
It's time for you to hear.
Okay.
In Flames.
I might be ready for it.
Anything prior to 2002. Just a recommendation.
Okay, I got you. No, I appreciate that, because I like to hear the peak if it's something brand new. Yeah. The peak has already happened. So okay, prior to 2002, In Flames.
In Flames.
Yeah. Okay.
And they had a sister band that was called Soilwork. Both were from Sweden.
Okay.
And that was labeled
metal is a whole thing. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. And that was melodic death metal with emphasis on melodic. So it was really melodic stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I needed that. It was sometimes almost sugary in terms of melodies. And so I didn't mind the screaming.
Okay.
It was like, I like the rhythms, I like the oomph of it and the melodies.
Okay.
But I didn't give too much of a crap about the vocals. It took a while to warm up. And Soilwork was a very similar band, but with a great singer. He could scream and growl and sing.
And sing. Like, okay, I gotcha.
Poppy. Yeah, it was almost pop-like. But it
so
fits so well.
Yeah. Okay. So I could see, knowing your music, why that lit you up, because that makes a lot of sense. So okay, so those were the gateways, you're saying.
Yes, and then stuff like Nightwish, that was blowing up at the time, 2004. It was they were all over Europe in 2004.
Yeah, Keith from Nightfall is very happy with you right now. You mentioned Nightwish.
I saw that one.
Yeah. You just, if he wasn't already a fan, which he probably was, I think you just made another one. Yeah, that's like his bestie. Yeah. So okay, and then you just sort of gradually got more acclimated to the really brutal, hardcore, heavy, intense metal. Okay, so because I know that that's kind of where you started musically too, right? Like when you started making your own music. Okay, so we're going to get into that, but you know what? Because there's no way to parse the rest of what's coming, I think to make sure that we satisfy the crowd, who it may or may not be. Sometimes they don't anymore, because they know that I'm going to get to it and they're not afraid I'll forget, like I did at the beginning of this show, that I'm going to get to the song. I think we should play it. But guys, we have this. I'm very excited, because by the time this is airing, it will probably either have already been out or just about be coming out. But we are playing something tonight that is fresh off the presses and the mountainside. And I'm honored, because we've gotten to hear this before almost anybody else.
That's the truth.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your brand new, still emerging single, and then we can come back after we play it and talk about it more.
All right. Yeah. So this one's called "These Mountains Cast Great Shadows," and it's about, not maybe about a single person, but a special group of people who like to climb in extreme situations without any respect for the mountains, for touring in high altitudes. I'm a hiker myself, but I know my limits. And with social media and everything, people go higher and higher and higher and more progressively more extreme, and many people die. Yeah. So this one is kind of about people thinking they can handle everything, but in the end, they don't.
They get squished. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Look at that. Metaphors and everything. So, okay, guys, I just heard it. It's so good. Here you go. These Mountains Cast Great Shadows by Adder's Fork.
Enjoy.
These mountains cast great shadows, settle giants towering high, whispering tales to those that rise. Reaching places for his mind to rest. Despite the warnings, he ventures forth onto the crest.
Okay. So I got to get the knee up. I have to tell you, and I've only gotten to hear it once so far, but like, this to me synthesizes absolutely everything that I've ever heard you create. Like, just it puts it all together for me, because you have this super fucking awesome, very specific niche that you fill musically, and it's not that it's narrow and it's not that it's limited, but I don't really hear anybody else doing it or at least I haven't found anybody in the indie music community that's doing exactly what you're doing. And this song really showcases all of that. I mean, one of the things that I love, and you do this, you do this fairly frequently, but not on every song, certainly, and we're going to talk about all of that, is that the way that you play with tempo and rhythm and dynamic, and you'll change the beat up, and it'll go from being these really, you just kick ass right to the face blast beats, and then all of a sudden it's sludgy and it's slow and it's like, and then right back up. And I love that because every time you do that in a song, it makes me hear everything else that stays more the same in the song in a different way. And I don't know if that makes sense, but what I mean by that is, like, if the guitar phrasing is the same, or the riff is repeated, or, what you're doing on vocals is the same, but say from a verse to a verse or a verse to a chorus, you've changed the beat, you've changed the dynamic, you've changed the tempo a little bit. It makes me hear what I was already listening to differently. And I love that. Like, I love that the way that you can shift the focus of the ear just by playing around. And it's not like, wait, what did he do? Like, all of a sudden we went from it being like, this insanely fast thing to like, a Bee Gees song or whatever. It's not like that, but it's like, it's just enough. And it makes listening to your music, I'll just use it. The word that popped to my mind was thrilling. Like, I love that. I love that I don't know where you're going, but that I trust that it's going to be good, and it fits to me that you are a mountaineer, because it's kind of similar in that way. Like, where you're going, but you don't necessarily know what's going to meet you on the way. And you just have to know what you're doing and trust yourself that you're going to get to where you're going without dying like the people in the song. So when you were putting this together, like, did this one come quickly? Was this slower? Like, what was the process for you in writing these Mountains Cast Great Shadows? Which I love, by the way, if you haven't figured that out from what I just said already.
It feels that way.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
I love your explanation of it, because I don't want it to be jarring. That's like...
No, it's not.
The sections shouldn't clash. I've done that before on purpose, like having this 80s almost poppy parts and then have it heavy. But this one is all about this. Yeah, this one is all about transition.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, it does.
And this one absolutely rests on the drum parts.
Yes.
Because this time I wrote the drums first, which is something I don't do all that much. But I had a throwback to more extreme black metallish stuff that I don't listen to much these days.
Right.
But I had a phase, where I just wanted that.
Yeah.
And that's why I had the more complex drumming in mind. So I just tried and played with speeds.
Yeah.
And then the riffs came together pretty quickly.
Okay.
But the singing did not. So
okay.
That was really hard, because I tried to do everything deeper at first, and don't have the contrasts here, but I couldn't get it to work. It was like, oh my God, you're definitely not a singer. Stop it.
I'm going to argue with that all day. But given instrumentally what the song does, I understand why that was difficult, because it almost demands that you be up and not deep. So I can totally, because because you do, I mean, especially on your earliest stuff, you're all the way at the bottom there. Like, you get really deep vocally. And so, like, this one, I think you were exactly where you needed to be. So it was more that you had to figure out that was what you were supposed to be doing, rather than, okay. So once you figured out what your lane was, did it all kind of come together pretty quickly after that?
The concept did, but it took me many takes to have a 95% satisfactory result.
Hey, that's pretty good for a musician. 95% satisfied. That's pretty good. There are people here who I think are perpetually at like 82. So with their music, from what they've said to me. So I think 95 is pretty great. But no, I mean, like, and the other thing with your music, and it's in this song, but it's in everything, is that you have these cool little details that really because I'm a music nerd and I listen the way that I listen, I appreciate so much. So like in the last maybe 45 seconds, I noticed, and again, I want to, once it's out and I can listen to it more, I'll have even more to say, but like just on this one read, like, you know, those last 45 seconds, you have sections where your kick is just gone and you still have drums in there, but the kick is gone and it just kind of attenuates the whole mood of that outro, which I love. And then even vocally, like you have a section there that I heard where your emphasis in your phrasing on the title, you know, in the chorus is a little bit different. You know, you hang on cast, and it gives those little breaths and those little moments that keep everything interesting. And I really, when I started listening to your music more in depth, because obviously, you know, like I've heard you over the months in the community and just stuff that you've put out, but like really doing my deep dive here and listening to your whole catalog is like, your music is kind of like watching somebody who's really good at puzzles put puzzles together. And I don't know if that's going to make any sense.
Oh yeah,
like,
it does.
Okay, cool. Because I almost imagine that like you envision, and please tell me if I'm right or wrong, but that you envision your songs with all these components, and then you're figuring out how you want to craft and assemble them. And what I love, and again, I don't know if I'm talking about out of my ass, but that's how it feels when I listen to it. That, you know, you might say, okay, I know what I want to do with the guitars here, and then I think that means that I need to have this drum here, and then this here, and then these vocals need to be here or here. And I love watch. I feel like I'm watching the process of you creating the songs, but the song is already done. And I don't know how to articulate what I mean. And it doesn't mean it seems unfinished or whatever. Like it seems so thoughtful, you know, and I love that level of detail in construction is there, because I'm hearing the music in a way that's not, and I've said something like this before, like Joel from Steam Slicer, you know, where like I feel like I'm hearing music differently. And that happens to me whenever I listen to your stuff. And I always love when I come across that, because it wakes me up, you know, and that's what I mean by I don't hear anybody else doing, like Joel does that for me too, but Steam Slicer is not doing Adder's Fork music and vice versa, you know? So,
right.
So, I mean, like in blah, 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 me, right? But like in all of that word soup that I just said, like, what is it like for you when you're putting stuff together? Does it come to you full force? Is it kind of piece by piece? Like how is it? I mean, it's probably different from song to song, but like, what's the...
Yeah, it is different from song to song. But the first thing that came to my mind was like, did you hijack this camera when I'm crafting my stuff?
Oh, really? So that is how it works for you?
Very much, very much.
Oh, okay. But that's you, Marko.
Yeah.
I felt that. Like the only way I was going to get that was if you put it into the music. I love that so much. Okay, so talk to me more about that then.
It's the puzzle.
And no, I don't have a camera. You can relax. I didn't see what you did last Thursday at 4 p.m., so don't worry about it.
Oh my God. I don't even remember myself. So, no, it's the puzzling. That's what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I have a few things in mind, and they only start getting together when I'm trying things out here. Okay. Yeah, it's like I do sometimes have a melody in my head that I just need to get down, but most of my stuff is really coming to fruition in here.
Okay.
Yeah, but not all at once. That's what you said. It's like, okay, this is one idea, this is another idea.
Okay.
And in the initial process, they do not fit. So I have to work around that. I do have a very basic understanding of music theory.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's like a life's work right there. Music theory.
Yes,
like, yeah.
So totally. And I do have 3 or 4 or 5 books, excellent books with samples and additional online material, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've never finished them because it kills my enthusiasm for music.
It's so dense. It really, like, it's one of those things where you want to have the knowledge, but you don't want to have to have learned it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, I want to have read War and Peace, but I don't want to actually read it, you know? I just want to know how to do it, you know? I don't want to actually learn. So I totally understand. It's a lot. But okay, so initially when you're trying to put the puzzle together, you're not those pieces aren't fitting. So what do you do at that point? Because you know by now that it doesn't mean it's not going to work. It's just that you have to puzzle out how to do it. So how do you do that?
I switch around with tunings.
Okay.
Guitar tunings is one thing, and then I sometimes really just adjust the tempos as well. So I probably have my workstation open and try a few different BPMs, and
smart.
then I think, hey, that works better when it's slower. Yeah, definitely. And I do fuck around a lot. So
you have to.
it's 4 or 5 hours gone, and then I listen to this stuff. It's like, oh my god, this sucks. Yeah, and so
it's so hard being a musician sometimes. It really is.
It is, and then I think like, okay, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna drop it. So I leave for 2 days.
Okay.
Sometimes 4.
Okay.
And then I get back to it, and it works instantly.
Isn't that so funny? It's so funny how that I mean, I've had that experience with writing. I've had that experience with trying to like figure out a harmony to something where you're just like, your brain is like, can't, no, don't, can't, no. And then you take a break and you come back and it's like, oh, of course, it's right there. But like, I always believe that that's, even though time away, you're still processing it internally, you're still figuring it out as you go. So okay, so you will step back, and then you'll come back to it, and then is that the point at which the floodgates are open and everything else just sort of falls into place, or is that just like the initial components, and then you got to do all that again for like the rest of it? Because your stuff is, we should say, because we haven't, obviously Marko was saying, starting in extreme metal, definitely, but I mean, you do the guitars, you do the vocals, you do the bass, you do the synth, you do all the drum programming. Like you basically, if it's on there, unless you've said otherwise, it's you, right? So it's just you. And, your music is, it's so funny to me because like, I always sort of say like, okay, well, if I have to pick a genre, which doesn't really matter, and the community has taught me that more than I even initially thought it myself, that, as a cover band person, primarily, it's like, okay, well, now we need to do a hard rock song, and then we need to lighten it up with a pop song, and now we maybe want to do something that's a little more bluesy or whatever. So you you do think in genres a little bit. And for originals, especially in any kind of metal where there are just so many subgenres and subgenres and whatever, we've talked a lot on this show about the gatekeepers and the people who really care about genre and the people who don't. But like, so to sit there and be like, okay, like your music, I think I'm going to have to put you in my famous genre promiscuous category, because I absolutely hear heavy metal. I absolutely do. I absolutely hear like that gothy 80s rock kind of, element. But then I hear, and maybe I'm high as a kite, but I hear a lot of new wave in your stuff. And even some punky stuff, or I don't know, maybe I never really totally understand punk versus post-punk, but like whichever, but like something, like I hear all those pieces and like it doesn't sound like they should work together, especially the new wave element. And with this one, I hear a lot of that too. I hear a lot of, especially in the vocals, I hear kind of that Depeche Mode, Cure, Smiths kind of vibe,
That's what I want to hear.
Okay, great. But also even like Midnight Oil, like I hear some of that. Yeah, and but it's like you wouldn't think that those things would dovetail so nicely, but I mean, you've got symphonic elements in there, even if it's not like outright orchestral, and you've got all this build, and like I can imagine that, because having listened to everything that you've done, or at least that you've put out, probably you've done much more, but like everything that's on your YouTube, for example, or the stuff that you post on Facebook, if I start back in like the back in the day stuff, like 2018, going all the way back 2016, to the EPs, and we're going to talk about all that in more detail, but like I feel like I've heard you evolve and combine into who you are now musically. Like I would say, like I think at least that like A Farewell to Expectations was much more, say, new wave than The Individualist was, and then both of them are more what they are than The Fatalist is. And again, we're going to get to all of this, but like, so it's so fun for me to kind of, go back. I listen to you from current all the way to back. Sometimes I go from the beginning up, and I don't know why sometimes I choose one or the other, but for you, I was kind of curious, and it was almost like watching somebody change levels on like genre, as you went back in your discography. And I love that because it was like, I see exactly how Marko ended up where he is right now. But like, that's so cool because you didn't radically change as a musician, but the changes that you made, even though they might have been sort of incremental or less perceptible, when you added it all up at the end, and I look at where you were in 2016 and what you were making, which I also love, by the way. I'm not saying any of it was bad. I'm just saying, like, watching that evolution and that genesis of what we get now with like these mountains or memorial ruins or whatever. It's astounding how different the music feels relative to where you started, even though you didn't change all that much. So I'm really not sure how you did that. Do you know? Well, I mean, do you agree with that, first of all? And okay,
I agree.
Okay.
And I can explain.
Do it. Tell me, because I'm like geeking out hard on this. People know like the knee is up. It's all over at this point. So tell me what, because that was fascinating me all week prepping for this, like all week.
Well,
like, I got to ask him.
It's actually a quite simple reason. The reason Adder's Fork exists is heartbreak.
Okay.
One thing. One of maybe two things that's important for Adder's Fork. So it's classical. It's heartbreak. It's nothing else. Yeah, that's like many songs and albums have been written with that in mind, right?
Oh yeah.
But that was one thing, and the other thing is I totally grew tired of writing black metal.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did before until 2010.
Right.
And I had no ideas left. My whole listening was also changing into a different direction.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So around 2010 and 11, I dropped almost everything metal out of my playlist because it didn't feel good anymore. Huh. And then I had a very short-lived and damaging relationship. That doesn't actually deserve the name, but it was, that kind of thing that always ends in hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm familiar.
A very good friend of mine he told me back then when I recorded the first demo in 2013. That was the worst year of my grown-up life. Mm-hmm. He told me, you're actually just this is your therapy. Your own therapy, it's like you're putting all the emotion, all the pain, and all you got into this. And the problem was I did not have any confidence in my singing voice. Zero. And so it was a tough way to find a balance between, can I actually put this out? Right. Can I show this somebody? And I need to do this. Yeah,
okay.
Because I was 2 or 3 years without guitars and without anything that a musician does. So there was nothing in my home back then. It was like, no, fuck this, I don't care. All I write sounds the same. And there's only so much you can do when you're fixed onto some black metal niche,
Okay.
Not just black metal as a whole, because like now you have to do this and that, and that's
it gets very narrow. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That burned me out, and so there was this break, and then this shit happened, and before that crap happened, I already bought a new guitar because I want. That was the time when I totally got into The Cure. That's what you said before.
Okay.
It was The Cure. It was the Sisters of Mercy.
Okay.
It was Depeche Mode. And
that's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Mission,
yeah. I hear all of that. I do. I hear all of that. Sisters of Mercy, definitely too. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so that was what you were listening to at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not writing yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was also the time when I realized, okay, I can do more fruitful things if I actually try to do a proper studying of the guitar. It's like not like
actually learn this thing.
Yeah. It was more like there's other stuff too. And I sat down and learned chords. because I didn't do that before. If I played any clean part in my black metal stuff, and I was part of a band back then when I was 17, 18, 19.
Okay.
We even played live. We did death metal covers,
Okay.
and they turned the wrong way. My path, my direction was more lighter, getting lighter again,
Okay.
enjoying more intricate melodies and stuff. And they was like, "I killed your baby in my backyard." Yeah, yeah.
You might want to copyright that line because somebody's going to take it if you don't. That's like I can see like 9 bands just I'm going to kill you. Yeah.
They were heading to. I don't know if you've heard of the genre.
You guys were
splitting. And because they were like really doing brutal slam death metal, like getting heavier and heavier, and there was no sense of melody left. There was no sense of writing. It was like dun 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 in different BPMs.
Yeah, I mean, hearing, because the thing is, like, there's a place for that, right? And there's a market for that, and there are people who love that. But if you want something that's more melodic and more intricate, like if you are basically like abolishing any sort of brightness or any sort of melody or any sort of complexity and changing tempos or whatever, you really can't do very much. I hear what you're saying. Like that could get very rigid and very old very fast, for somebody who wants to do something different. So, True. So that was...
never clicked.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you were sort of splitting out. You had decided you wanted to move in another direction. And so, I mean, it's interesting because you said a couple of things that, my ears perked up, and as always say, whatever of this, if anything or nothing that you want to, but, you said, 2013, the hardest year of your adult life, which is very specific detail to give. So, I mean, is it like is this something where because you said at the beginning, I think that when you picked up the guitar, if I understood you correctly, that you had decided you wanted to do more with your life than what you had done up until that point at the ripe old age of 15 or 16 or whatever it was. But so I'm getting the sense from that, and the fact that, you stuck with music even when it got harder, or you were changing your relationship to it, whatever. And then the fact that you have made it a therapy of sorts. Like, is that something that got you into music in the first place?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those. So that happens to you more often. I know that. Yeah, like that music is something that heals.
Yeah.
And I moved to the other side of Austria, of the whole country, back in. So let's start a bit earlier. So
take it wherever it makes sense to start. Go for it.
I had a great early childhood. It was really amazing. Amazing friends and family. Everything was fine. And then you know how it is. So parents got divorced.
Yeah, I know how it is.
and my mom actually was born on the other side of the country, which has a completely different mentality.
Okay.
Yeah. So and when you're like 6 years old and you're forced. Before the first day of school, you're forced to move 300, 400 miles away to the other side of the country, from the lowlands to the deep gorges of the Alps,
Okay, that's like 1,000 different kinds of culture shock and whiplash all at once, I imagine.
Yes, highly religious too.
Okay.
That's Austria still suffers from problems in that matter.
Okay.
But I was like the boy with that weird accent and dialect and stuff.
Being different never makes that. Yeah, especially as the new kid. That's not a good combination of things for a little kid. So
and I was pretty thin and quite the weakling back then, and of course there are individuals that take advantage of that. And I had to fight my way through a few dire years. And so it took me a long time to find my place and to get my voice, to raise my voice. And took a few critical moments. But after, it was it sounds almost pedestrian if I say it like that.
Okay.
I switched school. I went to the next level. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like from elementary to middle school or middle school to high
right.
school. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know what you mean.
that
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Aged 14, about 14, 15,
Yeah.
15.
Okay.
Then I changed to a
Like
high
the
school.
upper. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like an upper level. Yeah, and that was it was the other side of the city where I lived,
Okay.
and all the hate and all the anger and all the stupidity and aggression and another thousand words for that
Mm-hmm.
just fell off. It was like
Oh,
I
amazing.
had a new start because people there did not know me at all. Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
suddenly I knew what it was when people said like, "Hey, how are you? Who are you? Tell me your name," and not like "fuck off." That was
So they
I was
were
like,
curious instead of
yeah,
aggressive. Yeah.
yeah, that was just,
Okay.
oh my god, I'm a normal person. Do you think I'm a normal person? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to fight them. I don't have to find a reason or have to explain why I'm actually allowed to be here or some shit
Yeah.
like that. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
we're all new. Let's start anew and tell me about yourself. And I was like, I was almost crying because
Yeah. Of
I
course. No,
felt like a human being.
that's
Yeah.
not pedestrian at all. Like, especially in the life of a kid, school is half your life. It's half your time. It's half of every day. And if you're miserable, that's daunting. So
Yeah.
to basically walk out of like this dark forest of years of just being treated like shit into like, and all of a sudden people are humane. That's not pedestrian at all. So okay, so that was kind of, I guess then, given the timing of what you're describing, like you maybe started to undo some of all of that and heal,
Yeah.
and then that was when
Right.
music kind of presented itself.
It made it possible to actually look people in the eye and speak to people on
Mm,
the same level.
mm.
That it took years. And a nice thing about that is the friend I mentioned before who started playing the bass.
Yeah.
He's still one of my best friends.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so cool.
and he actually moved out of this shithole with me a few years later because
Okay.
he was born there but never really felt so great there. That's
Didn't
what
fit in.
no, he
Okay.
didn't really fit in, and it's a pretty dire job situation over there. So he also took the opportunity to go to
To
Vienna.
get the hell out. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, these days he lives maybe 45 minutes away from me, and we still meet
Okay.
regularly, and it's great.
I'm so surprised to hear this because, like, I mean, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but like, my knowledge of Austria is that there's this. All right, don't laugh at me, but it's like Gemütlichkeit or something like that. This like, oh, he laughed. I said not to laugh. I'm sorry. I tried. What was it? Say it correctly so people can hear it.
Gemütlichkeit.
Okay, all right, there. That this sort of like geniality that is Austria is supposed to be known for, and what you're telling me is like, is that what it was like when you were little before you moved?
Yeah.
Because this sounds very much like James and the Giant Peach to me in a way, like if you know the story at all, where it's like you go from like this idyllic sort of situation into this absolute waking nightmare or whatever. But like, so I mean, like I'm surprised. I mean, I know there are shitty kids and shitty people everywhere, but like I'm kind of surprised that that you had such a, and I'm sorry for it, that you had such a rough upbringing. But like, what a rescue to get out of it and then be able, because what I'm hearing you say is that you actually had the bandwidth at that point to think about anything other than just kind of surviving day to day, and that, like, that's a huge thing. That's when you start to figure out who you are, when you're not in survival mode all the time. That's I mean,
perfectly said.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. But so this is a long love affair with music then, as a therapeutic, expressive kind of thing for you. So it's funny too that you started in that extreme metal, black metal, death metal kind of thing, because it's I mean, not to fall into the stereotypes of, oh, you know, everybody who does X genre of metal is this kind of person or has this kind of, you know, mentality or whatever. Because if this community has taught me anything, it's that all of that is bullshit, frankly. You know, but that, you know, a lot of people who I've talked to who do truck in more extreme metal, dark metal, black metal, death metal, you know, like an Isaac Avenin or Shovel Monster or whatever, they'll say to me, like, that's what I do. So I basically don't go out and hit people with bats, you know, like it's a way to express all of that anger and that fury that's been built up or whatever. So like, it's interesting that you got out of that darker place and then started getting into music. And then you spent a couple of years in that set of genres. And then you were kind of like, I want to go over here and they're going over here and blah, you know, so
like mellowing out.
Well, I mean, but I think it's funny. Like, I think I get the sense from you, and it's funny because Greg's been laughing at me all week because, like, you know, I haven't really spoken to you aside from, like, you know, getting ready for this and just, you know, seeing you on Facebook and obviously, like, through all your music, but also just, like, you know, your Yellow Friani video, whatever. And I've been talking about you all week to Greg, like, I know you very well, and he's like, do you have YouTube? And I'm like, no, this is all fully coming out of my imagination. But it's like, I think it's because your music is so reflective of who you are that I feel that way. Because I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to Marko, and he's going to be really cool. And he's probably not going to know how talented he is. And he's probably going to be funny, but also like self-deprecating. And, you know, I bet that he's really interesting and kind of a musical nerd and whatever. And like all this stuff. And like, again, I mean, obviously I'm nice. I'm right about the being very nice and all that stuff, but like, and funny, but like, you know, your music has all that personality in it for me. And it's funny because you do definitely still have darker metal elements all over the place. You know, it's not like you're sitting there making an ABBA record, you know, like
not quite.
No. And I mean, but because you've put together, and again, the synthesis is a word that kept coming up for me this week, listening to your stuff, because whether it was genre or just tempo or dynamic or vocalization from, you know, more screamy to more growly, whether you were like, you know, bass baritone level or up here more in like a tenor range, like you're putting all these pieces together. And I think that people who can take things that are progressively more disparate and marry them in a way that's successful, that says a lot to me about who they are as a person, because it's sort of, it's like a quick gloss on a lot of really complex things. You know, you like a lot of different kinds of music.
Yeah.
You're interested in saying a lot of different kinds of things. You want to, you know, highlight different sections of different pieces of different songs on different albums, and you want to do it in a specific way, whether it's changing tempo or changing rhythm or changing dynamic or changing the guitar tone or the vocal that you're doing or the kind of vocalization that you're doing. Like, there's all this stuff that is so interesting and different relative to each other in itself, and like that's all you. So I kind of got this very strong sense, like, and I was sort of like, I'm so curious, like when I sit down with him on Saturday, like, am I going to be like, what the fuck was I talking about? But like, so far, I have to say, you are very much who I imagined you would be in all the best ways. No, because it's, I'm so impressed by that you are able to convey that musically to someone who's really never met you. Like I always think that's really amazing and very cool, because it's like music is all about connection anyway, right?
Yeah, true.
And so when you can sort of titrate that specifically to like who you are as a person, like I always geek out on that. I really do. So I think it's terrific that you've managed, and I love to hear that you did love all that Smiths, Cure, Sisters of Mercy, you know, Depeche Mode kind of stuff, because I really hear it. Like, and your timbre, let's go ahead and say, it's so cool. Like, you've got all this swag vocally, you know, and I do hear in your older stuff, like I hear on Farewell to Expectations, not that your vocals weren't good, but that you didn't trust them as much as you do now. Am I right? Okay, so
Absolutely.
yeah, because I was like, he you could tell you were like a little bit, and I don't mean in any way that it doesn't sound good or it wasn't right or it wasn't strong
Restrained.
or anything.
It
No,
was restrained.
I don't even know what it was. Like, it felt like you were holding back, even though it didn't sound like you were holding back. And I don't know how to explain that to you, but
I hear it. I hear my holding back.
You hear
Yeah.
it. Okay. Okay.
But thank you.
But
Thank you anyway.
no, but it works though, because it like in and I feel like this is a good point for us to start talking about like the EPs and everything, because oh, and you know what? I keep meaning to say, and I'm going to totally forget it because it's like the least interesting part of talking to you. But for people who are looking Marko up, okay, on social media and different platforms or whatever,
Yeah.
you're not going to find Marko and Adder's Fork on Spotify, okay?
True.
Because, and this was so funny because I remember months and months and months ago laughing about this really hard. There is another band on Spotify called Adder's Fork. It is very decidedly not this Adder's Fork, okay? And I think when we played one of your songs on one of our Vox and Guest lives, I might have mentioned this, that it's like an Irish, like medieval kind of, and it's good. It's just not you.
Not at all. And
please don't go to Spotify thinking that that's Marko, because it's not. Okay, go to his YouTube.
You can listen to them because they know their craft.
Yes.
And as you said, they play some kind of Irish folk, but they're actually from Australia.
Right. Which I can't quite put together either.
And they are not very active. I think they got like four or five songs in the last 4 years.
Like, it's so many layers of confusing because it's two Adder's Forks, and one is from Australia and one is from Austria. So it's very easy to mix things up. So if you go, most people I know start by going to Spotify, for better or worse. Don't get confused. Go to Marko's Facebook page. Go to his website. You have that spank new and Bandcamp. Because we want Marko to actually get money for what he makes. But like, it's all there, and you'll find it. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that because I didn't want people to get confused if they hear these mountains cast great shadows and then they go and they're listening to like. So it's not the same band. So anyway, but you have 3 EPs.
It's 2 EPs and the album and the demo.
Oh, right. I'm thinking albums, not EPs. Right. So you have a Farewell to Expectations. That was what, 2016?
2016, yeah.
Right. Okay. And then the Individualist came out about 2 years later, and then the Fatalist came out about 2 years after that.
2 years later.
Right. So I mean, first of all, I love that the titles are there's a lot of question baked into those. Those are not throwaway titles, it's describing, and I wanted to ask you, because I don't know what my answer would be. Do you consider any or all of these concept albums in any way, or no? Because I didn't hear like a strong concept, but I definitely felt like there were themes and through lines. So
you got it again.
Oh,
it's like that. There is a thread through it.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not exactly concept albums.
Right. Okay.
It explores different themes, but all of them have a certain mood.
Yeah.
And but the lyrics differ.
Yes. Yeah. No. Okay. That makes sense to me, because they're almost titled like concept albums in a way, but they're not. But they definitely all fit together in a way that, an album that's just song to song to song to song might not. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start more recent? Do you want to start back so we can talk a little bit about more of the songs in more detail? Do you have a preference?
I guess we start in the back.
Okay, let's do that. So go ahead.
Yeah, because as I said, I started in a rather bad mood.
Right.
And the same friend that told me that this was therapy, the early days of Adder's Fork, the same guy said you're like crying and whining into the mic. That has a place, but I don't like it. That's what he said.
Okay.
that's fine by me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but, sometimes being a good friend means you say the thing that the other person doesn't want to hear, but okay.
No,
I don't know that I agree with him on that, but he said it anyway. So
he
okay,
said it, and in hindsight, if I look at the demo days, I don't know if you heard the demo from
I did.
2013. You
Yeah.
did. As you know, it's not a metal demo.
No, not at all. No.
No, it has maybe I think 2 distorted riffs, and the rest is all clean and all.
Now that's
glossy.
the joys of solitude, right? We're talking
Yes.
about. Yeah. Okay.
Talking about
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't put the spotlight on that one today, but
I liked it, man. I did. It's
Thanks.
different, but I liked it. I liked it all. So okay, but so yeah,
it's nothing to
that's
be ashamed of. That's not. It's not horrible
not
or
at all.
something.
No,
It's
not at
okay.
all. Not at all.
But yeah, that just had that certain backstory, and
So this was
later-
processing that crappy situationship kind of
Yeah.
thing that you were in. Okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the titles on that one are, I think, more blunt than any of the
Yeah.
rest that came after that. Because,
They
I mean,
are.
Contact, okay, fine. But then you go into, like, this betrayal and Tales of a Broken Man. Like, you're clearly not in a good headspace at this point
Not
based
at
on what
all.
you're talking. So, I mean, those were, and it's funny because I know you called them demos.
Yeah.
But they're very strong. Like they're mixed very well. They're produced very well. Like it's very clean. Because like sometimes people will send stuff and they're like, oh, I only had this on cassette, so it's not where I wanted it to be or whatever. Like, when I talked to Joe Boo, it was that kind of thing. And this wasn't even that. It's like, is it more demo in the sense of like where you ended up musically rather than like sonically a demo?
Both.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No,
So yeah, okay.
I was trying to get a good clean sound. I was actually how can I say that? Now I was afraid of the moment where the language difference would make a difference.
Sure. Okay.
Let me think of it. I had a huge problem with my distorted sound.
Okay.
And as I said, I didn't want too much of it, but I hated how it sounded. It was like another PVM I had back then, the large one.
Okay.
And I liked what came out of it as a clean tone with chorus effect and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I wrote and the more I performed at home, the more I liked it and kept the heavier tones out of it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure because it was a whole different recording situation. It was no studio at all. It was like a normal desk and no sound treatment like here, not at all. And I just tried and I wasn't sure. And the other thing was the direction, because I didn't know if that was what I wanted or if I had enough ideas for more of this. Yeah, but shortly after, I also listened to more metal again.
Okay.
But I kept listening to all the cool 80s stuff too.
Okay.
Even I had the idea of merging earlier already, but this surely helped getting back into more metal to write more hybrid tunes, because then we can step right into the Farewell to Expectations, because this one has more like these chopped parts where you got like this one's clearly metal, this one is gothic rock, and this one's all clean.
Yeah.
This doesn't have those, maybe a little bit, but it doesn't quite have those seamless flows that the later ones have,
Okay.
So that was more like experimenting with metal and 80s stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it really, and I mean, like there are some really, I mean, I love all of it, but like the ones that really stood out to me on A Farewell to Expectations were like, this doom is certain. It's very like, there's a lot of reverb on the vocals, first of all, which gives it a very specific sound to me. And I think of it as kind of a metal ballad, I guess we could maybe sort of kind of say.
It's kind of heavy, but also kind of not.
Yeah, and I mean a little slow, and I mean there's a great chorus in there, like a really great chorus, and you've got a lot of that almost like arena metal guitar going, which I'm always a sucker for, right? But it's super dramatic. Like the song is super dramatic, even though it's more like it's a little quieter. And I think some of that, where I hear like the shift of sort of putting things together, is that you have some brighter riffs in that song than you do in anything that was on the demo album, because it does change it, that like the harmonies that are in there, and like the bass line is very cool in that song. Like you hear it a lot, it pops, you know, and then it gets really big. And then what's all that talking? What's all the spoken stuff? Like what was it's sort of like newsy and like demonic, and like there's just a lot going on. So like what was the inspiration for that?
Well, This Doom is Certain is my favorite song of that album.
Okay, there you go. We're in absolute sync here, you and I,
Yeah,
Marko.
it's cool,
That's very
really
cool. Okay.
And a short story to this one too, because I remember sending this to a radio station in Germany.
Okay.
Back in 2016, and they told me to fuck off because they don't play new metal.
Okay.
And I was like, what?
New metal?
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting take on the song. Okay.
I never heard that. I still don't, but okay.
No.
Maybe it was the clean singing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. All of this specific subgenre stuff gets very like muddy for me on like what's what and what the rules are supposed to be and all that crap. And as we've said before, like I hate that, because like why can't you just do the song the way you want to do it?
There's still that kind of, as you said, that gatekeeping thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, there might be something sounding like, there might be a groove like in new metal. Oh my God, it's got to be shit. Yeah. So get the fuck away. Yeah. So that doesn't make much sense to me or to my ears, but well. But in the late 2000s, I wasn't any better. So I also grew out of that. Yeah. Okay. I had these times 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah.
I really don't hear new metal in that song. Like I really don't.
I don't.
But I love it though, because that's one of those. And again, like the whole EP is strong. Like they're all strong, guys, is the thing. Like you're going to listen to Adder's Fork, and whichever, I'm not even going to say iteration because it implies too much difference, but whichever phase of the music, you know, Marko was in at the time, you've had an identity musically all the way through. It's just sort of been about refinement and shifting, you know, emphasis and focus in what pieces you wanted to bring in and which ones you didn't. But like, again, even the demo stuff, very strong. But like to have an EP like that's your first EP, where you have a song like This Doom is Certain, and there's so much baked into it, and it's so beautifully balanced, and it's I really like and like the last, I would say, third of the song, the only word that I can come up with for that is just, it's epic. Like it's just epic. There's so much going on in there, and like it really makes you like, because that's what, the second song on the album,
I believe it is.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so then, you know, we've got like another 4 or 5 after that. I'm not sure what, but like, and then again, all different, you know, and the other one that really pops on that album to me is Textures of Finality. That one, what'd you say?
The instrumental one.
Yeah. I really, because, you know, you don't know something's going to be an instrumental until you get far enough in it where you're like, okay, if you were going to start singing, it would have happened by now. But it was just the fact of the title and that you made that an instrumental was already compelling to me, because the song is very, I would say that has more classic metal elements, for lack of a better word, that like, especially for the outro, again, like you know how to end a song, man. You really do. You know how to start and do the middle of one too, but like you know like which ones need to be hard outs, which ones need to kind of fade a little bit more, which ones need to sort of play around a little bit with the beat. But like that for an instrumental, you know, because and what happened when I was first listening to was I was listening to it expecting it to have a vocal track. Mm-hmm. And I actually, when I got to the point where it was maybe like a minute in or whatever, and I was like, okay, this is it. And I stopped it and I started it back over, because for some reason I listen to songs differently when I know it's going to be an instrumental. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe because it feels like the choice to make it instrumental is saying something about the importance of the instrumentation specifically. But so, and I just like, I was so caught up with that song. Like, there's so much you can Rorschach onto that mood and that song. And it really, and in the context of everything else, because like Trails is a lot chuggier. Like the rhythm is not in a bad way, but I think simpler than some of the other songs.
That's a simple song. Yeah.
Yeah. And but again, not, you know, in the same way that things that are simple aren't necessarily easy. I don't mean simple in a way where it's not interesting. It's just, it's more stripped down in a way, I think conceptually than some of your other stuff, you know.
True.
And then like, you know, you have, and It Runs in the Family, which is, that's an angry song to me. Like that's a really, there's all that dissonance and that growling, and it's just very intense. So, I mean, like, you know, to come in on A Farewell to Expectations, you know, and kind of have this, that's a big Cure Depeche Mode one for me, like big, where I was like, holy shit, like what, you know, like he really went for it, but like, again, not in a derivative way. You know, it reminded me in the best ways of those bands that I love so much, right? You know, and again, because your timbre is so specific and your vocals are so unique. And again, I don't mean that as a euphemism for like bad. I mean literally unique. Like nobody sounds like you. You almost sound like a bunch of people I really like. You know, you almost sound like a little bit of, I can never remember his name, but, you know, the lead singer for Beds Are Burning. And, you know, you almost sound like a Dave Gahan. You almost sound like, you know, but you don't. You sound like you. But I hear all those elements, and that always catches my ear because those are very distinctive voices. You know, they're very powerful and they're kind of dark, but they're still melodic. So I mean, to have that be your debut EP, you know, and it works so well as a whole EP, but the songs are distinct, like they're really distinct. Was that the goal? Were you still more finding your way, and that happened? I don't imagine any of it happened by accident, but I'll ask the question. No. Okay. Yeah. So did you set out to make an album like that, or is that just kind of where you were and what you ended up writing?
No, it was, that one had more planning involved.
Okay.
And the vision was clearer, and the only thing I still like it, apart from the production, which is something that really it is too flat for me. If I compare it to newer stuff, it was a learning curve because I'm doing that all myself, and
it's hard.
Basically this album it's not even mastered because I had no idea. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I will, because I'm objective, so I will say that yes, relative to what came after, there's more polish on and finesse around the EP and the LP that came out after that, but it's not raw and messy and lo-fi, and like it's not any of that. It's just not. I understand where you want things to be now that you know more, right? Yeah. So I get that. Okay, so that was more of an intentional. And I mean, was it a good experience writing all of that? Because coming from the headspace that you were in, did you feel when you finished it that you were better off than you were before, or did it just keep you in that headspace? Like, what was it? Because, you know, that's tricky with therapy. Therapy's like that too, you know? You go into a session and you leave feeling great, and sometimes you're like, fuck, why did I even go? You know, like I feel worse than I did when I got there. So
the answer to this question is yes and no.
Okay.
Because I wrote this over the course of 2 years or 2.5. Yeah. And with really high highs and really low lows. So it reflects on the lyrics because they are not all downers.
No.
You know? So like as you said before, as you asked before, This Doom Is Certain is literally about humanity and how things are not looking bright. It's gotten worse. But that's one is really pessimistic, and the speech you were asking before. The speech you hear in that one is actually, I think, I'm sorry, about American politics. I'm not sure anymore. I think was it Eisenhower? I'm not sure, but it is a speech from from a famous and important politician that is faced in a trial, and basically it's just all denial. You know, it's
Right.
like, no,
Right.
we've done nothing wrong. It's all
Yeah. You're
do
you're
anything.
nothing to see
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And so this one is really pessimistic and dark, which many songs of that album have that element.
Yeah.
I mean, it runs in the family is basically abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the sun at the end
Yeah.
has the line, "The sun will always shine on me, not on TV." Yeah, because that's what I heard that later. The sun always shines on me. Yeah,
No,
it's not that one.
I heard me, but now that you say it, I could see where. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not that. But this
No.
one is actually, about crawling through the dark times
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
appearing as a winner in the end. So
Yes,
this
and
one
then
is
and there is
bright
a
spot.
little bit of hope in there.
Yeah.
You know,
in
and
the
it's
final
funny.
song.
I got some Metallica from the Sun. I got some Nothing Else Matters. You know, I got some of that, which is funny because again, still lots and lots of new wave. Like I heard lots
Yeah.
of Cure in that one. You know, and your growls are so whispery in that one, and I always find that interesting because it's like it's creepy but it's intimate, and like it's an interesting combination to me. It's a very specific mood that I can't even necessarily quite put my finger on, you know. But and then I even heard some like a little bit, you know, that song Sunglasses at Night. I wear my
Yeah,
sunglasses.
sure.
So there's a little bit of that, and I got to give a shout out to, you know,
Yeah.
our boys in the community
Yeah.
here. Oh, let me shut
Totally.
this down. But you know, and then some Guns N' Roses, even like a little bit of Sweet Child of Mine in the riff. So like that's what I mean. Like it's all these like familiar favorites that I have that and again, it's not to say that it is derivative. It's not like your music. If it's anything, it's not derivative. Like, as I said, I haven't heard anybody doing what you're doing, even back from 10 years ago. But I love that there are all of those little musical signposts for me, you know, where I can sit there and go, oh wow, like that reminds me a little bit of this, but then it's also over here, which is a completely different thing. You've got like 80s hair metal, and then like new wave, and then you've got metal, and like it works. And I keep repeating myself, but it's true. Like I love that so much that you can pull that off.
It's
because
nice to hear.
no, it really, and I mean, it's right in the face. And then, you know, when we get to the individualist, where I feel like, and again, not in any way dinging Joys of Solitude or Farewell to Expectations, because I'm truly not, but the individualist is where I feel like you really started to understand exactly who you were musically and where you were going to be, because it really, you know, it's, again, as I said earlier, starting from your demo stuff all the way up to now, you really can see that progression, and that really, I think refinement is a better word than evolution, because you had all of the elements from the beginning. It's just that you had them in different balance in certain songs, and, you know, obviously you got more adept at the production end of things, which does make, as we all know, a huge difference. I've said it many times that you can ruin a great song with bad production, or you can elevate a bad song with great production. So,
True.
so for the individualist, which again, that was like, actually, it was just about 5 years ago now, right? Like November. Yeah. So,
2018, yeah.
So you, oh man, I got to tell you, the title track. Big fan of that one. Like so the album starts in a very interesting way. You have like not even like a minute and a half long song called Mood Shift, right? And it's got such a cool vibe. Like I think the drums almost sound tribal in a way. You know, it's got that
was
like
the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Man, I mean, if you ever need anybody to just, you know, explain your music or whatever, like just let me know.
You're hired.
Apparently, I've got. Apparently, like you've communicated to me so cleanly and thoroughly that I fully understand where you're coming from. But like, I love that tribal drum. I love that. I love that you've got that. You know, that bass riff is super tasty in there. And I love the emphasis on that. And then there's synths too, right? Like you've got, okay. But then the guitar, like the phrase starts out more simply and then it builds. It's that kind of arena rock riff that I just like, and then it's over. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't like, oh, it should have been longer or why did he stop it there? But I just thought it was so cool to have a song called Mood Shift. And that's exactly what it was. But it was the first thing on the album. So it's like, technically you weren't shifting for it, but it was almost like for me, because I was listening to everything together, I was kind of like, oh, this is such a great title. And I was like, wait, no, technically it's the, but anyway, but so then you move into the title track, The Individualist.
You're
and
shifting
like
into this mood, it's like
that's really that's how I ended up taking it. Right. It's kind of like we're here and then whoop, we're here. And I mean, your vocals are like all the way down there in this one, which I love because it really makes it stand out. But like that one, don't kill me. But I somehow simultaneously heard like Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf elements, okay, with some Cyndi Lauper Time After Time elements, and I don't know why, but that was when I was listening to it, and I was like, I feel a little bit of this going on, and that was one of the things that made me love it so much. And this was the first song where I really, really noticed all of those very quick and super, super well transitioned tempo and dynamic changes and rhythm changes in the song. Like that was where you really started to sink your teeth into that, I think, more than any of the songs that I had heard before.
Yeah.
So like putting all that together and the beautiful little synth accents that you have in that song, like what was the thought for that album? Like where were you mentally? What was the headspace? What was sort of the thematic? I mean, I know lyrically I understand it, but sometimes we interpret things differently than they were intended. So like, where were you then, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
right?
Well, it was a pretty good time personally. So this is around the time where I started writing stories as well,
Okay.
The things that happened before always had some kind of personal attachment to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess everything that happened before had had to do with some, at least, even if it was just on the outer edges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Personal experience.
Right. Something that had actually happened to you.
Yeah.
Whereas then you were like, you know what, I can write about other things too. So okay.
Because I was in a healthier headspace, and it was just possible to let stories grow out of it as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, current events and things that happen to me in a daily life, and the individualist itself is basically, let's call him a guy, just a simple man, who thinks he needs to always be different than everybody else.
Yeah.
He feels empowerment through being entirely different to everybody else, even though he is not, certainly not. Yeah.
Right.
So he embraces unconformity by being exactly what he doesn't want to be without even realizing it. Yeah. And there's the music video for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There was a really cool experience working on that music video with an artist from, I think it is Indonesia.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, who was really cheap back then. He was like a movie student.
You got it on the ground floor. Yeah.
Yeah, I got him on the ground floor, and 5 years later, he's like 4 times as expensive as he was back then, for a reason.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least he's worth it.
He's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And so he really managed to put this story into the video as well.
Yeah.
And but it's as we said before, it's like a slight theme over the whole EP. Yeah. But it also has some wicked fantasy stuff like Witchgrove Mountain.
Yeah, no, I think that's the next track, right? So like you really did, and it's funny because like I knew these were probably not autobiographical, Whereas because I didn't know any of your backstory until, today, but like, whereas it felt like the stuff that I had heard on the demos and Farewell to Expectations probably were. But Witchgrove Mountain, like it's like, okay, clearly not. Like if this actually happened to Marko, we're gonna need some sort of an old priest and a young priest or whatever. But like that's another one where I got like, there's so much drama in that song. There's so much drama. There's so much going on. That was another big Beds Are Burning one for me. And again, another great out. That guitar outro is just so delicious. And like I know you named your band after, I'm assuming, the scene in Macbeth with the witch's brew, right?
Yes.
So is that like an
nod.
area of like, is that exactly, like a nod? That's a perfect word for it, to the whole thing, or like where did that one come from? I'm so curious because it is really apart from everything else. So
it is. It just entirely came to me. It was like a story unfolding in my head.
Very cool. Yeah. Very
and it still has some kind of connection to personal stuff, I think, despite all of this, because in the end it's still, even though it's wicked and a bit evil and stuff, but the main character still gets some kind of approval, It's still like he's
right.
finding himself among like-minded individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a like a belonging almost. Yeah.
It's just that part of the story, but I can't deny it's there. Yeah.
It's not like it's a bad thing to have it be personal, but I mean, but that's where I think, and it's reflective of where you were mentally and emotionally, that you had enough distance to make it less specific and less literal in that way. But it's still, I think all the best music has some element of the personal in it. So I think of that as a good thing. But like, and then another huge highlight for me out of all of your songs, not just on this particular EP, is We Stare Into the Fading Sun. Like,
I'm glad to hear that.
You what?
I'm glad to hear that, because that's not a fan favorite.
Really?
No. It's the least listened song I got on both EPs, on the newer one.
I'm going to tell you why. Okay, here's my hypothesis. I might be completely wrong, but this is what I think. It has a very different feel, first of all, from everything else that you've done and everything else that's on that EP. So it is a left turn of sorts, I guess, if we want to call it that. But I don't think of it as a bad thing. But I think that song might be too complex for most people. There are so many changes, and I'm not trying to insult people like they're stupid, but like you have to be able to get it, and hang with it. And it turned me on. It really did. Like there's one element that you use in the song frequently, and it's to great effect, where you have these dropouts with the drums, and it just, it makes everything so vivid and contrasted, and that, with all of the change and all of the complexity, I think might be where you lose the average listener. I'm just guessing, but I kind of feel like, even considering how like that song really builds, right? That really builds, and then the out is huge, right? So like, at least I would think that people would be able to be like, that they would. So I don't know, but maybe it's just that everything else is so good that they didn't have time for it. That might be, I'm going to go with that, Marko. That's going to be that's my canon explanation now, and you can't change my mind. But no, I really like that one a lot. It was very, it was just, and because it's another portrait of what you can do, and I love that you're not afraid to change things like that, within songs, among songs, that you're content to say, and now I have this idea and I'm going to do it. And you're not, again, just throwing it in like it's an afterthought or anything like that. It's all of your music, it doesn't sound like it was hard fought, but you can tell it's very carefully crafted. And I appreciate that so much, because it's got that same thoughtfulness of like a, Death Pigeon, Rewiring of Humanity, like a Steam Slicer, Echoes of
Mhm.
Infinity, and Devenir. Like it's got all of that oomph to it, but it's also just very listenable. And I think that like even in ways, there are even elements where I hear some proggy stuff, like some, like progress. Yeah, just like
Little bit.
exactly, like just sometimes it's just about like a slightly more heavily reverbed vocal. Sometimes it's just about a little bit of a delay or a certain kind of distortion on a guitar. Like it's just these little seasonings, but there's just so much in your music for people who like all different kinds of things. And then, as I've said a million times tonight, putting all of those things together and making them work and making them make sense and then letting them tell a story, because that's another thing that I haven't really said as much, but lyrically, I so appreciate that you have something to say. And I also appreciate that you said it in English because so
Oh God.
what was that decision? We might as well get to that. Like what was the did you always just go like, all right, I'm going to do it in English because, I wanted to reach the States at some point, or like what was the
I've always loved English as a language.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the only thing that I was good at school.
Okay.
Because,
Well,
I was one of
considering you
those,
didn't really have much time to work on anything else, that's still pretty impressive. So,
I was a pretty rebellious pupil and student. But English, I loved English, and I had a teacher who kind of hated me. But, and that is a good quality, he realized that he could push me either way. So he helped me with he brought me material to study that was not part of the daily
okay.
school, and
Okay.
he's like, "Shut the fuck up, but learn this."
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it
So
was
he,
like,
okay. Well,
yeah,
all right. Shitty reason, but good result, I guess.
yeah, no, it's actually, it's like the usual story. It's the only teacher I still sometimes have contact with.
Okay.
We didn't even like each other, but I will
No,
always be
but
grateful for him pushing me.
yeah, and I think that's a mutual respect thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So okay, so no, I think so. Do you always only sing in English?
Yeah, I try.
Okay.
I've had requests to try German.
Okay.
I think it sounds horrible. Yeah, I tried. It sounds so awkward to me that I deleted everything that had to do with
Wow.
German. Yeah,
You know
it
what
doesn't
though?
work.
I wonder, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm insulting all of the German language, because I'm truly not, but you are so drawn to melody. And I think that German is not what I think of as a melodic language generally.
Not really.
Where like French, you are all up here and you are down there, and then French and German, I more think of it as being kind of it's almost like the extreme metal of languages, like it's a little bit more in a specific bracket. So I can understand why, especially against your instrumentation,
It's kind of clashes.
yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
you could puzzle piece those together actually. So I don't know. At some point, you'll have to, just do the natural thing and cover Rammstein or something
Yeah,
for people just to shut them up.
Yeah, but I don't feel like it, and
No.
even in the 80s stuff, and be it post punk or whatever it is, new wave, whatever.
Yeah.
The German in these songs always sounds kind of clunky.
Yeah.
And almost a bit like a parody. It's always like that can be really good melodies and rhythms. And it's always like I'm always like,
Oh, no.
because I don't think it
like
works.
when I tried to say, and I'm not going to say it again, but that word,
No.
yeah, no,
Come
but
on.
no, yeah.
No, that's fine. It's cool, and I love to hear German words sometimes when
Spoken
even
badly by American
no,
people.
no. How should you know?
This
Yeah.
is true, but no, okay. So and then at this point where we've gotten into a better headspace, we're open up to the point of, writing stories and telling stories that aren't necessarily completely personal. You
Mhm.
get to The Fatalist. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was, I mean, obviously came out during what was not a great year for most people in 2020. And again, another level up, another refinement for everything, and I think I think one of the first songs I ever heard of yours was the title track of Fatalist to Coming Dark. And I think we played that on something a long time ago too.
Loved it.
And I just remember going like, who is this? Like, because you start that song out in such a slinky way. You've got that bass in there and and the drums are pretty light, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, it's like Marko's take on Holy Diver kind of level feel, like this deal, which I love. I love. And I'm a sucker for harmonies, especially with anything that has a metal backdrop of any kind, because it's so unexpected. You don't really think that you're going to get that level of melody and harmony in something, but you're not really just metal, quote unquote. So It makes sense to me. But man, like it's such a strong way to open the album. You definitely have that confidence in it. And I think maybe this was the first point where I really felt like, did you feel finally like vocally you had more belief in yourself on this album? Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
one thing about the show you had with that track played.
Yeah.
I'm kind of grumpy that I don't remember who said it, but one of your viewers, also somebody I know from our group, he said his voice gets me every single time.
His voice gets me every fucking time. Oh my God.
That's the compliment he made.
Okay.
And that one sentence was the most enthralling feel I ever had with my music. That's especially when you're not too confident with your voice and somebody says that. Yeah.
Yes.
That was like a really fucking shit. That rules.
We're gonna have to look that up. I mean, I know Rob from Anger Overdose was involved. I know JD from Death Pigeon. I think Joe from Freaky Things. I know like there's like the OG crew, maybe Drew.
One of the usual suspects.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to go back and look that. Well, thank you, whoever. And if you're in the chat and you remember saying that, let Marko know. Then we don't have to go back and look it up. But no, I'm so glad that you heard it that clearly, because it really, like in Alex from Tarwal, where like you have that kind of that voice that's just so distinctive, and it immediately that it's a Tarwal. I can't still fucking say that, Alex. I'm so sorry, but I mean, that it's one of Alex's songs, or like an Agbat, where like you just as soon as you hear the voice, like who you're listening to,
the Wormwood Project.
You absolutely have it, though. You do, and you really it's used to great effect on the LP. It really is, because this one, I felt like, not only because you have a full length album here rather than an EP, but you really took your time with these, in a way where, and again, not that the other ones were rushed or anything like that, but I feel like the album reveals itself a little bit more gradually, maybe, than the EPs did. And I'm not sure exactly why I feel that way, but I remember sitting and listening to it through the first time going like, all right, there's it's not a pacing, it's not a tempo, but there was like a patience maybe in it.
Good word. That's a good word.
Okay. So what does what I just said mean to you in terms of how it was making this record then?
Well, one thing I do have to correct you about is it is an EP.
It is an EP. I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Shit. Right. Okay.
Worry.
Right.
No
Okay.
problem.
Right. I got you.
It's just 20 minutes.
That's right. Okay, I got you. No, good. Okay, then even more impressive, right? So, but it's definitely still got more of that patience than the previous releases. So
you're absolutely right about
okay.
It is in one way a continuation of The Individualist. Yeah. So I didn't mean to make a huge stylistic jump.
Yes.
But it was the plan to have two separate EPs that could work as an album. Yeah.
It's so funny. I wonder if that's why I said that.
I hope so.
I do. Well, no, I could have just made a mistake or misspoken. I don't want to act like I'm like, oh, but that was what I meant. But like, I think because they do, and not just even the way that you titled them, they're clearly more related to each other than the others were.
Yeah.
So, and it almost felt like, the person. Well, it's not just one person, but like the stories from the individualist,
Mhm.
kind of where we are 2 years later, and then where you are 2 years later, and where the world is 2 years later, and all of that, and you've got stuff on there that really, I think it does continue the story, even if lyrically they're not like literally connected. Like they do really work well together. And so
Yeah.
I mean, when you set out to write The Fatalist, was it with a particular mindset? Was it, was it more like musically focused that you were, where were you there?
Of course, what was going on in the world around
Right.
that time and that year did leave an impression, also lyrically,
Yeah,
of course.
I would say.
But it was also about and how should I say it? We talked about that guy before, the character.
Yeah.
This is another character that clocks a little differently.
Mhm.
He's like more. It's one of these people who tend to make a great drama out of everything,
Right.
but
Right.
in a very fatal way.
Yeah.
And what was going on in the world was surely
Mhm.
another put even more weight on that. So
Yeah.
it was even
Yeah.
more fatalistic outview
Yeah.
on the world. Yeah.
No, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also it had a sense of even a herald's curse, which is almost instrumental,
Yeah.
has the same topic. Yeah, it's like the herald is just. I thought about the Middle Ages in the when I was writing. It's like
Yeah.
a prophet who just yells out at the people in the world.
Right, like the oracle of doom or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, he gets killed himself. Yeah, and not
Wah, wah.
because the world, not because the world is burning down, but because he hit the wrong people with that.
Mhm.
The world was not gonna end, but his outlook on the world and shoving it into the face of everything else, of everybody else,
Yeah.
didn't do him good.
No,
Yeah.
and it's that's a very intricate concept, like to get that across in 4, 5, 6 minutes. There's a lot to convey, and again, in something that is largely instrumental, that you but it again, I think one of the things that gives that song more texture on the story is there are lots of big dynamic shifts in that one. Lots of big dynamic shifts. And it is very slow. Well, not very, but it is slow, and it is very moody. And again, your vocals are affected a little bit differently in this one than you've done before, right?
Yeah.
But it's still got those, those bigger moments that you need guitar, like all that stuff. But like it does have a portent to it, and I think that it's this whole EP is very, it's such a stupid word for what I want to say, but it's the word that jumped to my mind first was
Right.
powerful, because it is all of the songs are incredibly strong, first of all, as they are, but stronger even for you, like it's like all your stuff is strong, but like as we've been talking about, it's gotten stronger in different ways from release to release to release, right? So, when I'm hearing like a failures grin and fears remain, like, and I'm like, oh, like I know exactly what you're talking about in that song, like that, and I love that you managed to. And that was an interesting one for me too, because I think that's the one where I started almost to hear like a Queensryche kind of instrumentation in
I
there.
love hearing that. I told you already. That's cool.
You did? Did we talk
Yes,
about Queensryche? Did we?
you
Oh,
said
maybe.
it in that
Oh,
show.
in one of the right. Okay, yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I forgot about
remember
that.
that.
But yeah, well, I'm consistent if nothing else. But then also like not in the mumbly like rambly kind of way, but in the specific timbre of his voice. I almost even heard a little bit of Eddie Vedder, like a little bit of Pearl Jam in the vocals there, and I loved that combination because you've got this it gets progressively heavier, right? And the bridge is huge on that one. Like it's just, you've built to this big moment, and by the time all those blast beats come out, it's like but then you made such an interesting choice, and I love it, that the outro is actually pretty quiet on that one. You had something that was big, and you could have kept it there and we would have been right there with you. But it's so pretty there, the way that you ended it, and it's so like, is that more about, because sometimes your outros are huge, sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they, as I've said, they kind of, you get us there, but when it's not as abrupt or whatever, like, it's such a weird specific question to ask, but because I notice your outros a lot, how do you decide what kind of out you want for each song? Because you jump a lot, but they always fit. You never fade when I want you to be a hard out, and you never do a hard out when I want you to fade a little bit more, and you're never big when I want you to be small and all. So like, how do you get there? Because like sometimes ending a song can be the hardest part of it, which is weird, but
true. But I would say none of these choices are intentional.
okay.
So I always I listen to, it sounds a bit stupid, but it's really like I listen to myself. It's like, okay, I'm here. I have about 80% done.
Okay.
Yeah, and then sometimes I think, okay, it's really just looking at the whole piece and then trying to write something heavy, trying to write something calm. And I had a critic once who said, if you like these softy temperings, you have found your choice. Softy temperings. I will never forget that.
Okay.
Yeah? I don't have a problem with that.
So was it in like a metal publication where he? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not as mad then, I guess, because if it was in the sense of like, if you're somebody who wants like, the person that's going to like, burn the person in their backyard or whatever from earlier, like if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to like this. So don't listen to it kind of vibe. But if it was just like, oh, it's because I understand relative to, even some of the bands that I've talked to and that I listen to, that there are elements that aren't like all hard and brutal, but I don't think that makes it soft. It's, what I mean? So that's like a weird softy. That's a weird.
Yeah, well,
okay.
I should also say that was a positive review.
Okay,
overall.
Good. And I don't have to beat anybody up, so we're good.
It was like an 8 out of 10 or something like that.
Wow, okay.
I found it interesting, but I like the last part. Like you said, yeah, you found your spot.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Call it softy temperings. I don't care. It's fine. Yeah.
You'll take it. Yeah.
I'll take it, but I can't really explain
the outros.
How these choices for the outros come to me, because it's really that hasn't much to do with thinking. That's really just feel.
Okay. Yeah, because that for failures, especially like given where you had built, I thought it was a really distinctive choice to get it quieter there like that, and I thought it actually had more power for it, because it kind of went, ooh, we're underscoring all of this emotional content that we've got here. So I really, again, like everything on the Fatalist is so strong, and I think we've talked about pretty much all the other ones, so we might as well mention yesterday's favorite, which like I really the intro of that was very interesting to me, because I'm not sure what it almost sounded like kids on a playground or outside or some. Is that what it was? Okay. All right, there we go. But like it again, I felt some Metallica in there, but it was almost more like an Unforgiven sort of, like it had that moody kind of feel. But like it's that the baritone that you use here, it's so deep and dark. And then again, like, I love how much attention you pay to the bass, because bass is so important for mood. And a lot of songs don't use that to their best advantage. You know,
Totally.
that there is just this it can make it funky, it can make it raw, it can make it brutal, it can make it, you know, sweet and pretty. And then more than just focusing on the bass, you have this beautiful interplay between the bass and the guitar in like the last third of the song, you know. And again, I always pay attention to the choices that people make on the last song of an album or an EP of any kind, because it's like, this is the last thought you want to leave the listener with, right? And so, you know, it really, as I said earlier, like this album and each thing that you do seems to further, I keep using the word, but I think it's the best one I have at this point, refine that synthesis that you are emblematic for in your music. You know, that you know, you do always end us on something that is more thoughtful and complex. You know, we're not ending on big blast beats most of the time. We're not ending on something that's just hard. You know, it's even if it's a hard out, it's had so much baked into it that, you know, there's a lot to think about in the music, you know, not just the lyrics, but the music too, you know. And I think
I have to give you one more information to that one.
Okay.
Because it's a funny story, actually. The last third, or maybe 40% of the final track of Yesterday's Favorite is not me.
It's not you?
That's the only part from in the last 10 years that's been written by said friend I told you about earlier. That's the
bass player.
The former bass player, or still bass player. He's one of those guys who says he has not enough talent for writing and not enough talent for recording, whatever. Not enough talent to be an artist. That's what the stupid shit he says.
Yeah. Based on this, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Stupid shit.
I asked him if he wants to be somewhere, because, you know, he's one of those guys who says, yeah, maybe I'll have a project one day or whatever. And then we're just joking about it. And I told him, I have a bass line for you. Yeah. Okay. Or I have 2 bass lines for you. Just do what you want. Make it fit.
Yeah.
And I know something good will come out of it. Yeah.
You were right.
Yes. And I love that song. It's both it's my favorite vocal performance for myself.
Very strong.
And it has one of the best licks in there, and that's made by Patrick. Yeah. And it's the final 2 clean riffs in there, and they are absolutely beautiful. And
they really are.
Yeah, and they are quite different to what I do and I write. And this guy should fucking do something out of it.
All right, well, Patrick, I think this is a very pointed message to you if you're watching, Patrick. Marco's making a point of things right now. We're all going to back him up. Sorry, now you have a whole community that agrees with him, so you're going to have to make something. So
do it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that is the only thing that is not you.
That's the only thing that's not me, apart from the solo in Tales of a Broken Man, which is by Benjamin, who's also a guy who moved out of the shithole to the better side of Austria.
I love it. Like, that's what it is now. It's just they moved out of the shithole, you know. It's you escaped from Mordor or something, you know. And you managed to do twice. Yeah. Okay, so no, I mean, but it's, and that's very generous to give away the last, you know, couple minutes of your last song on your album,
because it was so good.
Well, and you were right to trust. I mean, obviously, you've known him so long; it makes sense. You know, after 20 years, you know what he can and can't do, even if he apparently doesn't. But so then I think the last one for us to go over is Memorial Ruins, because that came out a year ago, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And it is also part of a split album.
Okay.
That was released in February this year.
Right. So this was The Gathering of Four.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
You really know everything. It's cool.
Sorry, I do. But this is such a cool thing. So tell everybody about this project, and don't make me pronounce the names because then you'll just laugh at me again. Although I think I could probably handle Winter's
I would
Breath.
help
But
you out.
yeah.
So we were at the time 4 guys, all from Austria.
Yeah.
And this was released via Running Wild Productions, which is a fantastic non-profit label located here in Austria.
Yeah.
And I can only say good things about it because we managed to get high quality pro pressing done for really not a lot of money. So
it's amazing.
This guy, his name is Rainer.
I wasn't going to say it.
He did not. I don't think he earned even a cent out of this. Yeah, it's just because he supports Austrian metal, and that's
Very
how
cool.
we came together.
Very cool.
And the other bands are, which is kind of interesting, especially in reviews, because I'm the lighter version of these 4 bands.
Right. Yeah.
The others are all black metal.
Very dark. Yeah.
Yeah, in different branches of the subgenre. But they are all pretty harsh, and I don't think there's a little bit of clean singing somewhere in there, but
a soupçon maybe, but not a whole lot. So you definitely are a standout for different reasons. Several different reasons in that gathering of 4. So
True.
Okay.
But it was absolutely a cool experience working with others on this one, and these are all great people. We trying to keep in touch because I've never believed into the scene in Austria. I've always said, well, most of my fans are from abroad,
right?
But this shifted gears a little bit, and that's really
it's nice to have some people closer to home. And I mean, it's also, it is a neighborhood that you used to frequent musically, at least, to be in this area. So it was you and Winter's Breath.
Winter's Breath, in Dornen, which means like in thorns,
Okay.
And like being in thorns, so it's kind of painful.
Okay. And then what? Dea Artio?
Yeah, that's right. It's Latin. I actually don't quite know what it means right now, but that's
I don't either. And actually I didn't think to look it up, but no. So you I thought it was such a cool idea because it's not a compilation. It's not a collaboration. It's just, it's a split. That's really the way to call it. I guess you said a split album, this idea of just, we've got these, 4 Austrian bands, doing, well, you especially, different things, but different flavors of the same thing for the other 3, and so what you mentioned, for reviews, it can be a little bit of a thing. So like, was this sort of like one of these things is not like the other kind of situation, or like what was the feedback?
Yeah.
Okay.
And kind of a mixed reception. It was like some people were like pounding me and saying, what the hell is this guy doing here? Because this is not black metal. That's more like the Gatekeeper style.
Okay.
That doesn't hurt me much. It's okay.
No, it's also artificial and stupid. Right, exactly. It's almost another version of the softy, comment. So yeah.
And but some also said they applauded it and said, hey, that's a cool idea because it's all a bit on the darker side of the spectrum,
right?
But very different. And if you're open-minded, you will find a lot.
Well, but I mean, Memorial Ruins is not one of your lighter pieces either. So, I mean, I understand that relative to the other 3, bands that were involved, by comparison, yes. But I mean, like, there's some like big screaming and like seriously like hard ass blast beats and like. But I think where people get lost in it with you because it sounds like a lot of it's just more like a listener issue than anything else. Where like they want a thing to be a certain way, but like that song again, like if I'm remembering correctly, like once you hit like the 2-minute mark, that's around where that giant scream is. And I think that's the end of the vocals on that track, right? Like you basically, or maybe they come back at the end,
They
but
come back at the end. There's a little outro that's again soft.
right, exactly. But I love that then you spend about, half a minute or so, I think so, with that very intense section, right? And then you get slower, for the end, again about like it keeps changing and it keeps you on your toes with the dynamics. And I think that, if what you're looking for is something that is pretty, I don't like the word static because it sounds inherently negative, but like something that is a little bit more static, compositionally or thematically or melodically, what you do is not going to please that person because it's the antithesis of what you do. You are changing what you're doing and flipping it on its head and then bringing it back. And as we keep saying, synthesizing all these things. So it really, that comes down to, I think, just what someone's predilections are in terms of what they're listening for, but that has nothing to do with the merit of the song. No. Like, it's just a great song. It's just, if people are looking for some, don't go to a Chinese restaurant if you want Italian food, like that's it. It might be the best Chinese restaurant in the universe, but it ain't Italian food and you're not going to like it if that's what you wanted. So, I mean, you really, with this whole discography, I came out of it feeling like, okay, I've listened to, 20, 21 songs here, and I really feel like I understand your musical point of view, and
I feel that too.
Yeah, I thank you. I'm glad. Like, but it's also, musical points of view, and that I also get the sense that if we all of a sudden started hearing other elements of other genres in your music, it wouldn't throw me at all. If you decided to go more in like a black metal direction for something, but then also somehow throw in like, I don't know, an NSYNC section, like I wouldn't at all be surprised. And I'd be like, if anybody can manage to do that, I'm going to go with Marko on that one. But I love that you are absolutely blasé about everyone and everything that would tell you that you can't make the kind of music that you want to make, because the music speaks for itself. So right there, I feel like you've already won that argument. But the fact is that you don't even care to have the argument. You're just going to fucking do it anyway. And I love that you are doing that specifically, given what you told me about, basically 8-9 years of your life where that was the opposite of what you had to do, like all the time, even just as a person, never mind a musician. So it's like, I think sometimes people who have, not to put too fine a point on it and be dramatic, but like, sometimes it's the people who've almost died, whether by accident or by choice, who have the most like, open or least rattled approach to life after that, where it's kind of like you've looked that darkness in the face, you've sat with that for a long time, and then you come out of it and it's kind of like, what, if I could deal with that, I'm not going to worry about what some random reviewer says somewhere, like it doesn't matter. So I love that. And I think that the only things that I could say that maybe you didn't have going for you as much as you do now in the earlier stuff was just that lack of confidence in yourself, especially in your vocals. And I'm so glad that that's not true anymore, or that it's less true, at least, because I get the sense that you still have a little bit of like, but you shouldn't, because it really, first of all, I don't think anyone else could sing Adder's Fork.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I really don't, because your timbre is so much a part of the sound. It really is. It is a thumbprint on that I think is important. I don't think it would sound as good with somebody else singing it, or with, even if you were doing it in a different way. I really, truly don't. Like, you need that in there.
Yeah, but just one more thing about the album that's gonna come out next spring,
which was my next question. Yeah,
it will have my girlfriend Lena on it, on one track. Yeah, we will have a ballad. Yeah, maybe not extremely softy, if we're getting back to that one, but it's really it's the first the first Adder's Fork song since the demo that has, I think it's 0 electric amplification. So it's really,
Wow. Okay.
it has electric guitars, but they're completely clean.
Right. Clean. Okay.
Yeah, and this one is very 80s and maybe even a bit folky. Yeah, but
So I wasn't that far off when I started talking. Yeah.
It's the folk tag. We gotta be careful with that one.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because of these other guys. No, I don't know if you heard the cover version of Live Christine.
Yes, that you have on YouTube. Yeah.
Weird. Adder's Fork is not a cover band, but
I love the covers you've been putting up. They're very cool, and they're not things that most they're not doing wagon wheel guys. Like it's these are very different kinds of covers. So okay, so you were saying you're not a cover band, but
not a cover band, but it helped me a lot to embrace this, because I was also one of these who said no, and all the legal rights stuff and
it's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass, but it's a little bit easier if you only release it on YouTube.
Right. We can vouch for that.
So I thought, okay, what the hell, I really feel like doing one. That one did get a lot of good reception with Lena. Because I mean, I know she has a great voice.
Yes.
And she also has that confidence problem. Yeah.
This is not a Yoko thing, guys. Like
not at all.
She can actually sing. So this is a very good thing. It's a very good thing.
We even met at a karaoke bar. Yeah.
Look at you. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just getting into this and having the confidence to put myself out there, and same thing happened to her, and that's the time we met. So we try to do this at least every month.
Yeah.
But we are working on that song on the upcoming album, which will be self-titled. I can already say that.
Okay.
So it's going to be really good. So
of course it is.
I'm taking a lot
You're
of time.
making it, so yeah.
And I always told myself, if I release a self-titled album, it's got to be fucking good, because a self-titled album can only be released once.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You've used it. You can't have like Adder's Fork 2. I mean, I guess technically you can, but nobody wants to hear that. But
nobody wants to hear that.
Okay, so that you're thinking though that's going to be coming out
April or May.
Okay.
Next year. So I have 8 songs ready. Careful about that. I have 8 songs fully recorded instrumentally.
Okay, there we go.
And 7 of these still need vocals, or at least more than the raw cuts.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to say. Adder's Fork is 10 years old, or maybe 11 if you take the founding date.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of these who can push out songs every month. I respect that. It's awesome. To do it.
But that's not no.
It needs too much overthinking in my case. I'm always trying to get a new angle on something, or step back for a week, come back, and no, that's not it. And but it's okay for me. It's okay.
No, I think of you in that same sort of space as like a Nightfall or a Steam Slicer or a Death Pigeon, where there's just it and again it's hard to articulate this without sounding like I'm slamming everybody else, and I'm absolutely not, but it needs to take the time it takes. Because I know some people will say, like, I'm on the Spotify release schedule, like that's what I'm doing, and I'm exactly as you do. I respect that completely, and the fact that people can be on that kind of schedule and make really good stuff like they do is super impressive to me. But I don't think that I can't see you doing that, you personally, because it's just you are too you have the puzzle takes too long. It's just too, like I can't.
That sounds great.
I can't see that, and I actually really like that you don't do that either, because what you're doing is kind of what everybody used to do, releasing an album every 2 years or so, right? Like that was what we used to be used to. It was like, you went and saw a movie in the theater and then you had to wait like a year before it came out on video. And then it was like, oh, wow, this again, it's great, and like, Adder's Fork it's 2 years and 2 years and 2 years. And, that's what you're doing, and it's that's what it needs to be. So I'm just glad you have something new coming, and you're really far along with it then.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of time, and it's not good for the algorithm. We all know that.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for me because there's two opposing things in my life right now. That's doing music the way I do it, and the other part is I'm currently doing courses for being a social media manager. So this is very interesting for me because I have a love,
damn it.
I have a love-hate relationship. It's really love-hate, and I'm actually starting a new job with that, where it's part of the game. It's not everything, not at all.
Okay.
But I decided to do this, and it gave me that job opportunity right away, which is awesome. Yeah. But it's interesting because when you learn about algorithms and frequencies and formats and whatever, 70%, 80% of that is like, fuck you, Zuckerberg. It's like, no, really, it's like, how can you do this? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, we see that every day on Band Together. And with the Yellow Fuyani thing as well, because, I think bullshit gets boosted and blasted.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. We are now on that level. I like seeing funny memes. Okay, that's
of course.
Does. If I got a good joke with a good comic strip, whatever, it's all good.
Right.
But the whole fucking social media environment is 80% memes, of which 20% are actually funny, and I kick my own butt when I sit here like this. We all know it. And 20 minutes later, it's like I wasted so much precious time for this bullshit.
Yeah. And then you shouldn't be in a situation where you post a meme that you didn't even make, that's been shown like a billion times to other people, and it blows up, and then you post something about a song that you took 4 months to make, and people are like, what? And it happens to all of us, like all of us. So I imagine, and I mean, I don't even know. I know that there's an algorithm. I know that there's like, you're supposed to post something with a picture, but not a link, especially if the link takes you off of the platform or whatever. Like I know all that. I know it exists, but I don't know anything about how it works. So I can imagine like being somebody who is now learning about this and then putting that up against the reasonable way for you to do what you want to do the way you need to do it. You must be like, damn it, because those two things don't go together at all. So
I have to absolutely change my own speeds in social media. I'm trying to find a way to balance this, have content that I would like to read or see or watch myself. That has some kind of meaning to it. So you won't find me juggling balls or some bullshit, or doing stupid video fails. But I'm trying to find the line between what can I handle myself without selling my soul. The good thing is the job I'm going to do this for is actually doing something for older people. It's like wares that help the elderly to make their lives better.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool because I've been working in medical stuff for many years, but it was always the big thing with, provisions, commissions. You got to sell this, that amount, that sum, you know what I mean? It's like always pressure. And despite it being something medical, the attention was always on the sales.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. The money and the business side. Yeah. This seems like it's much more like patient or person directed. So
yes, and I finally got the opportunity to leave that shit behind. So I have to deal with that social media shit now.
Well, look, I mean, all I'll say before we wrap up on that is that, like, you know, I think if you end up being forced to exist in a timeline that doesn't fit what you need to have in terms of time to make Adder's Fork music, let the social media piece of it go and not the music piece of it, because we're here, you know, we'll listen, you know, I will wait 2 years for the next album after this. Like I don't need the fast food version of what Marko does. Like it's so the albums used to take 2 years because they took 2 years to make.
Yeah.
And like that's the stuff that people still listen to. They're not listening to something
Absolutely.
that comes out every other week. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily going to stand the test of time. So, I mean, take it in, take what you can from it that will function within what you do, but please don't let it change what you do,
No,
because it's
don't.
really not worth it.
Don't worry,
Okay,
because
good.
there will be no Adder's Fork in a daily routine, because, you know, there are times where Adder's Fork is not present in my life for a whole week because
Right.
it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there are times like the last 2 weeks where I've been sitting in this chamber here for
Yeah.
way too many hours. Yeah.
But that you're right though, because like I think back to Storm Kingdom, you know, when we spoke and he was like, you know, I'll start writing something and then I don't know where to go with it next, and I will just put it aside, you know, and he might put it aside for months or years, you know, and then come back to it and be like, aha, you know, I had this idea for how to, exactly. Yeah. And like, and I think that we don't support artists who work like that anymore. You know, we don't support taking your time with things. You know, we are in a fast food culture. We're in a TikTok timeline, and that's what people expect. But like, I find it amazing that, as we've said, people in the community can make the caliber of work that they do as quickly as some of them do. But I also really appreciate that there are people who are still old school in the way of like, I'm not going to rush this. I need it to, especially the way that you work. I don't even know if you could do anything different, because you either have the answers of the puzzle or you don't. Like, it's not.
Yeah, and I do have puzzles that find their ways together in a few days. This happens. I do have a few songs that took 3 days until they were fully formed. These do exist. Like it just dropped from my brains. Come on.
Didn't we talked about one of them, right?
We talked about it.
Not Textures of Finality.
No. It was the one track I told you that you also liked very much that others didn't.
This Doom is Certain?
No, from the Individualist album. It just fell.
The one Stare into the Fading Sun?
It was too complex. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, I forgot my own title. Sorry.
We got there. We did it. Woohoo! Go team.
Yeah, we did it. Thank you. But that was a track
Stare
that took 3 days until it's a 5-minute track that took 3 days for the complete writing, because I knew what was going to happen.
Right.
And that felt great from the first till the last second. So but that's a rarity, but it happens.
Well, that's it. No, and I mean, look, it's, as I said, we will wait. We will be here. We will wait for the gourmet meal, even if it means that we're hungry for a while. I'm okay with that. But listen, Marko, you know, I cannot let you leave before you are subject to, you know what's coming, because we do like to end every show with a little segment that we call In the Vox Seat.
Yeah.
So as you know, I have asked every single musician who has been on this show these same 5 questions. All right. And I think you know what you're in for with the last question, but we'll get there. So this I cannot wait to hear. If you had to describe Adder's Fork's music in 5 words or less, and not the Australian Irish band, your Adder's Fork. If you had to describe your Adder's Fork music in 5 words or less, what would you say?
Heavy, gothic, emotional 80s sensibilities.
Look at you. Okay. Someone may have prepped for this. I'm not sure, but I think
not
you
really.
I think you know who you are. So that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense to me. Okay. So, and I may have a sense of what you're going to say here, but your favorite thing about being a musician?
Freedom.
Freedom. Okay. Now that has been an answer before, that when I ask for more information has meant different things to different people. So what does freedom mean to you here?
Artistic expression, emotional expression, and you won't be judged for that.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. That with everything that you've told me tonight, that all makes absolute sense. And I don't think we can even say more about it than we already did, but I'm just so glad that you have that, after not having it for so long. But okay, so then your least favorite thing about being a musician, if you have one.
The times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our niche. So I'm glad about that, and there's still people buying CDs. Yeah, I'm not actually. I gotta be real here. It's not like I'm buying CDs for a collection myself.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
I do have a few vinyls up there. You can see it right now, but I do have a few of some really great records because I want them.
Mm-hmm.
But the value of music itself, it is just lacking nowadays. Yeah, and I love it when people buy T-shirts or merch or whatever when they support directly. But the worth of music nowadays is the worst thing about it.
No, and I love the way you said that too, because it really does. And you're right. I mean, we have, some bands, some musicians have been amazing and sent us, vinyls or cassettes like from Rotting Sun Records, or CDs that they made themselves, or that they've done through some label or something. But like it almost feels alien now to have that in your hand, because we don't, and everything being so compressed and everything else. It is different. I remember a time where sitting around and listening to a CD was like, that's what you did with your night. Like that was you and your friends got together and just put it on, and on your boombox or whatever, whatever we were doing in the 90s. But like that was the thing. And like it's not that way anymore. So I completely agree with what you said. I do feel like we get to pretend we're in that bubble still in this community a little bit, because everyone still values it that much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, you step to the right, to the left, or back or forward a little bit, and then you remember what's actually going on, and it's kind of depressing. So we'll just pretend it's not there. But okay, so this one, I don't know what you're going to say. But if you could only choose one album to listen to for the rest of your life, what album would you choose and why?
It's still by a band with the harsh name Rotting Christ.
Okay.
Yeah. I gotta explain. This is actually not a brutal band at all.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I started playing guitar after all. And that album is called I have a problem with the spelling now. Wait a minute.
Okay.
It's called Triarchy. Could that be?
Triarchy, like Triarchy?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like hierarchy, but triarchy.
Triarchy of the Lost Lovers is the name.
Okay.
And this is the perfect melodic, gothic, black metal album in this world. It's literally perfect to me. And I guess I've been listening to this one for a bazillion times, and if I only could choose one, that would be it. You should listen to it because I think you could like that actually.
Okay. Yeah, well, you said some things that I like, so yeah. And again, given how I feel about your music and how I know you feel about different kinds of music, I if you think I will like it, I will give it a try. I promise. So
you should.
Okay.
You should. The knee says it too.
The knee. The knee is back. Okay. All right. So that is your Desert Island disc. That is the one that you were. Okay. Marko, we are here. We are at the final question. We began super hard and serious. We've got to end super hard and serious. We have to bookend it. Like you, we have to come up with the perfect outro. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to just freaky chill out. Dom, keep your head up. We don't know what he's going to say. Everyone's going to love him anyway. If you're mad at him, you know, you're going to have to go through me. Okay. So Marko, your toilet paper roll, when you put it on the holder, does the toilet paper come from over the top or do you pull it out from under the bottom, and why?
There is only one correct answer to this.
I know where you're going with it then. Anytime anybody says that, they give the same answer, but go ahead.
It's, of course, over the top. Because that's the only true way to wipe your butt.
There you have it. Okay, so Freaky Things loves you even more than he did 10 sequends ago. Dom is still going to listen to you from Jamsteak, but just
I
with a
have
little bit
many
more
people
sadness
on
in
my
his eyes.
side. I know it.
You do. You are in the vast majority here. So you are an unequivocal over. You're in the over army.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's it. He didn't even pause for a second. There was no puzzle to solve on that one. He just had that answer right there. Listen, Marko, I think you get it, how I feel about your music. I feel about you
Love
personally the same way I feel about your music, which is, you know, you're every bit as great to talk to as I really, truly kept telling Greg that I knew that you would be all week. You know,
Same.
and I thank you. And I really, I want everybody to listen to the correct Adder's Fork, first of all. So go to that Bandcamp, go to YouTube, you know, don't go to Spotify for this one. You know, and really, you know, let yourself sit and listen to these EPs. Listen to everything as a piece. Because it really will, it'll get you the same way it got me. I think, I really think so. This music. So I believe so. And I want everybody to go do all the things like follow, subscribe, you know, everything you can do. We want to make sure that we keep supporting Marko so that even as he becomes a social media maven, he can still make music at the pace that the universe has intended for him. And I cannot wait for the next album. Please tag me when that comes out so that I can listen to it right away. Because you
will also get a physical copy then. Of course. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We never, ever expect that, but we always appreciate it. So thank you so much. But thank you for coming and having a very cool and symbiotic conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Tonight.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it. But okay, that's it, guys. That's another Voxing guest in the books. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.